The Youells have always had particular interest and particular charitable support for the Salvation Army and its related activities, for what was known as IHC, and a special interest in care for the elderly. And that culture has been followed by the trustees. But as the Mayor will mention, personal funding by Alf and Val outside of the Blenheim Trust and in a personal capacity has assisted many other Marlborough needs. Many years ago they founded not just the Blenheim Trust but the Independent Housing Trust. And the Independent Housing Trust was commissioned so that it could buy residential properties in Blenheim and house IHC personnel with a supervisor so that those people could live within the community as members of the community and not be institutionalised. After a number of years, IHC National changed its policy and didn't require that anymore, so that trust wound up and merged its assets with the Blenheim Trust. I'm enormously proud of this building, these premises and this trust. For a small private charitable trust to take on a project of this size is both visionary and courageous, and we agonised over it. We agonised over it many times. What if it cost too much? What if we couldn't tenant it? What if we couldn't sell the 3 apartments on top? What if the project took too long? Would we go and sell a number of other commercial properties and cash them up and throw the majority of our funds into one project here? So we really did agonise over it for a long time, as you would expect responsible and prudent trustees to do. But then we decided, to use a recent American political phrase, yes, we can. And so here we are. My thanks to the trustees for supporting the project. And in doing so, I'd like to say a special thanks at this stage to Ralph Ballinger. Ralph has been a trustee for many, many years. Ralph won't mind me telling you that it's in very recent days that he had his 93rd birthday. And you know, in the 3 or 4 years that since we first started talking about this project through to now, in all those discussions, I never heard one negative thought come out of Ralph's mouth. He was only ever looking ahead and being positive and saying how great this would be for the trust and future trustees. And Ralph, I think that vision and positive attitude has probably got a lot to do with not just yours, but people's longevity. So special thanks to you, Ralph. In the course of doing a project of this magnitude, there's always going to be a long list of people to thank. Obviously, for a building like this, you firstly have to start with a competent architect. Anton Tritt, from standing there in the front of the pillar, who's obviously also happy with the construction, because the engineer, Kevin Simcox from Powell Fenwick, is also happy to stand under this building as well. So it's been well designed and very well engineered, and we really appreciate the work that you've put into it. As some of you may realise, if you stand below this building and look straight up, that's not its best view. Probably its best view is if you just wander across the footbridge here to the river bank on the other side and look across at what Anton has designed, and it really does look stunning. Having done all that, you obviously need to have some very competent commercial builders. Thompson and Devaney Construction Limited proved to be superb to deal with. We were very well served by Kelly Thompson in particular, Jeff Powell, and a special mention to Phil Smith, who was the site foreman Phil became patience personified at times. There must have been a lot of times he saw somebody else walking towards him and thought, oh no, not another one. But he just kept keeping on and doing what he had to do and was very obliging to deal with, as was all of the T&D firm. And they've also got a wonderful range of very competent subcontractors that they engage for the contract as well. I'd also like to thank the tenants who've taken up the leases. The commercial leases are fully occupied. Wallace Chartered Accountants Limited committed very early to the project and said they would take probably most of one floor. Business Training Marlborough took the lease on level 1, the first floor up. As you come in here, the tenancy that's just about to be completed is going to be occupied by Rabobank. And they're taking over as from the 5th of December. They're hoping to move in. Rabobank, as you probably are aware, is reputed to be the 3rd largest or strongest bank in the world, and we're certainly very pleased to have them here. And then for the remaining part, Business Care Marlborough Limited, which handles business administration and management for small business, took the remainder of that. So I'd like now to introduce to you the Mayor of Marlborough, Mr. Alistair Sowman. Thanks, Alistair.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. It's certainly a privilege to be invited here today to the opening of Youell House. Alf and Valerie, Marlborough has been blessed by your association. Few places in New Zealand could have been the recipient of such generosity from people on the other side of the world. And little can Ralph and Pat Ballinger have imagined that their welcome to these English guests would result in such a long and benevolent relationship for this region. I know that Alf has said that if he was a younger man, he would have moved here. And he and Valerie are as close as you can get to being honorary Marlborough citizens now. And I'm pleased that the Council was able to acknowledge their commitment to Marlborough by conferring a civic award on them in 2000. In particular, that recognised their efforts in setting up an independent housing trust, as you've heard, to care for the intellectually handicapped people going into our community. And it was a thoroughly deserved award. But for 30 years now, through the Blenheim Trust and their personal funds, the Youells have made a material difference to Marlborough, supporting such things as the Selms Road Garden Centre, the IHC, Salvation Army, Bethsaida, First Light Foundation, and of course our Marlborough Community Hospice. They all owe much to the Youells' generosity, but so do a range of other organisations and individuals around Marlborough who have been the recipients of quiet philanthropy, sometimes from the Youells' own personal circumstances. For example, Valerie Youell made a personal donation to the Bread of Life Trust that enabled them to own their own premises. The Trust is in a good position to generate returns to fund its work for many years to come, with the Blenheim's Trust assets largely consolidated into this modern building. And that's a wonderful legacy for Marlborough. The Youells could see the potential of this site overlooking the Taylor River as it fast becomes a real feature of this town.